master of the husband, saw when Emperor Yang Jian Empress Dugu Gala.
In 553 AD, Dugu Xin, a general of the northern Zhou dynasty,
had a new daughter in his family, Dugu Gala, the youngest daughter of Dugu Xin's family, who later became the Empress of Yang Jian, the first emperor of the Sui dynasty, Yang Jian's successful assistant.
Dugu Gala was born to a famous family. Her ancestors were from Yunzheng, and she was registered in Luoyang during the northern Zhou dynasty. Her father, Dugu Xin, was the Grand Secretary of the northern Zhou dynasty and was appointed as the Duke of Hanoi for his outstanding achievements. Dugu Xin was one of the 8 pillars of state of the northern Zhou and was in charge of military power. Dugu Xin had 6 sons and 7 daughters, the eldest of whom was the Empress of Emperor Yu of the northern Zhou dynasty.
And the 4th daughter was married to General Li's son, the father of Emperor Li Yuan of the Tang dynasty.
Dugu Xin's family was a powerhouse in northern Zhou, and Dugu Xin's 7th daughter was Dugu Gala.
In the first year of Emperor Wu's reign, the 14-year-old Dugu Gala married the 26-year-old Yang Jian. After marrying Yang Jian, Dugu Gala and her husband became very close, and they had 5 sons and 5 daughters. Their eldest daughter, Lihua, married Emperor Xuan of the northern Zhou dynasty, and was named Empress Jian and was highly favored by her. As a result, Dugu Jara's sister was the Empress Dowager, and her daughter was the Empress. Yang Jian's family's power grew dramatically, becoming the most powerful family in northern Zhou.
However, at this time in northern Zhou, the royal power was still extreme, and there were better times to replace it. Dugu Garo and Yang Jian carefully kept the family in the dark.
After that, Yang Jian was appointed as the general of the Upper Pillar state because of his outstanding achievements, and he was in charge of the whole country's army and horses.
His prestige in the court was increasing, which gradually aroused the suspicion of Emperor Xuan of the Zhou dynasty.
Yang Lihua became the empress, but Yang Jian's position as the father of the state did not ease the suspicion of the royal family. Emperor Xuan even told Empress Yang Lihua, "If your father angers me, I will kill your whole family." In the second year of Daxian 580, there was an argument between Emperor Xuan Di and Yang Lihua. Emperor Xuan was very angry, but Yang Lihua looked calm and did not admit her fault. Emperor Xuan was furious and ordered Yang Lihua to be killed. The Yang family was worried that Yang Lihua would lose her wealth and fortune and her whole family would be killed. The Yang family was in a state of confusion.
Only after the Dugu clan came to the palace and begged forgiveness did Emperor Xuan retract his order and not kill Yang Lihua. The Yang family adopted the strategy of holding back, saving their daughter's life, and preserving the Yang family's power and status.
In the same year, Emperor Xuan of the Zhou dynasty, who was in his youth, died of illness, and the newly succeeded Emperor Jing, Yu Wenhuan, was only 8 years old and could not take care of the government. So Yang Jian, with the support of all the people, became the prime minister of the Zhou dynasty, and was in charge of military and state affairs both inside and outside the court, and he decided all the essential matters of the state. At this time, Yang Jian's power in the court was unrivaled.
The country was politically unstable at this time, and there were rumors about Yang's substitution for Zhou. Dugu Garo thought that the time was not yet ripe for him to become the emperor. So he tried his best to persuade Yang Jian not to become the emperor of the Zhou dynasty for the time being. While Yang Jian was still hesitating, as expected by Dugu Jara, the governor of Xiangzhou,
Yuki Wan raised his troops to rebel, and some others responded. Yang Jian mobilized his troops and led a crusade, soon eliminating these forces.
After destroying these armies, Yang Jian heard that Yuki's rebellion was encouraged by the Yuan kings. So he put the Yuan kings under house arrest after destroying the rebels.
In this way, Yang Jian dominated the government, and no one dared to interfere with the affairs of the court. The rebellion confirmed dubious opinion, and Yang Jian paid more attention to her advice. Emperor Jing was forced to make Yang Jian the king of Xua, and allowed him to bring his thought to the court and not to kneel during the court.
Later, at Yang Jian's request, the Jing emperor gave him a crown of 12 ni, which only emperors could wear,
and a flag which only sons could use, which were beyond the limits of the highest courtesy a subject could enjoy.
At this time, Dowager paid close attention to public opinion worldwide. When she saw that most people were not against young Jian, she decided that this was a favorable time.
So she sent a message to young Jian, who was leading the army outside,
saying, "Everyone in the world thinks that you will stand up for yourself in place of Zhou.
And since it is already difficult for us to get out of the way, why don't we just do this?
And a great man's job in the world is to build up a career. So your husband must seize this opportunity."
You must seize this opportunity.
It was Dowager's support that made young Jian finally make up his mind to stand on behalf of the Zhou.
In the first year of dating of the Northern Zhou dynasty 581 AD, young Jian finally abolished the young Jing emperor of the Zhou dynasty,
proclaimed himself emperor, changed his name to Kai Huang, and established the Sui dynasty.
Empress Dugu lived a frugal life, was not good at ostentation, and specialized in reading, knowing the past and present. When Emperor Wen of the Sui dynasty made a slight mistake in his administration, she advised him faithfully and painstakingly.
At that time, there was a box of pearls worth $8 million in the Turkic trade with Sui dynasty.
Yin Shou, the governor of Yuzhou, asked her to buy it, but she politely declined and said, "Nowadays, the foreign enemies are repeatedly invading, and the soldiers are tired of fighting. So why don't we give this $8 million to those who have made meritorious achievements?" This act was immediately rumored in the court and praised by all the officials. Empress Dugu also secretly dispatched a group of people to reward the soldiers with $8 million. Empress Dugu also secretly sent eunuchs to monitor the government. If there were anything she thought was wrong, she would advise Emperor Wen.
After he retired from the court, and Emperor Wen often took her advice. She once advised Emperor Wen to buy a jade worth 100,000 taels of gold from a merchant in Yushin,
reasoning that, with this huge sum of money, we can feed 10,000 soldiers in the future, from which we can be sure that Empress Dugu was a woman of great talent. Dugu was particularly strict with her relatives. Siua Changren, a cousin of Empress Dugu, raped a woman and violated the law of the land and was sentenced to death by decapitation.
According to the law, but Emperor Wen of Sui intended to pardon his crime for the sake of the Empress.
However, Empress Dugu remonstrated with him, saying, "How can we be concerned about the affairs of the state?"
So he sentenced Siua Changren to death.
She was honored by all in the palace and was called her saints together with Emperor Wen of Sui, not allowing her husband to take a concubine. In political affairs, Empress Dugu was a wise and virtuous woman, but in the relationship between husband and wife, Empress Dugu not only
forbade her husband to take concubines but also forbade ministers to take concubines. And she was a standard advocate of the monogamous marriage system. There were many beautiful women in the harem of Emperor Wen of Sui, but the strictness of Empress Dugu's control over Emperor Wen of Sui was unique in history. When young Jian became the emperor, he was already in his 40s, and Empress Dugu was already 27 years old. Sui Wenli reformed the governmental procedures and vigorously reorganized the dynasty, intending to establish a new, bright, prosperous dynasty. Empress Dugu, as the wife of Emperor Yang Jian, understood that proper management of the harem and family affairs would significantly influence Emperor Wen's governance of the country.
Therefore, after she became the empress, she did not feel at ease enjoying the glory and wealth of motherhood, but started her plan to control the harem strictly. First, she abolished the old rule of 3 concubines and 6 concubines. She advocated a simple life, not only forbidding the women in the harem to wear gorgeous dresses and colorful makeup, but also requiring them to be very strict in their speech and behavior. Empress Dugu ordered the concubines not to approach the emperor at will. The concubines were very dissatisfied with Empress Dugu, but were afraid of Empress Dugu's supremacy and strong hand and did not dare to disobey. Empress Dugu knew that only by deepening her relationship with her husband would she be able to keep the emperor
from being seduced by other beauties and concentrate on the government.
Therefore, with her tenderness, she took good care of Emperor Wen of Sui, and did not dare slacken off. She drove him to and from the court daily, cared for his food and drink, and personally asked about his husband's living and clothing. Yang Jian, the Emperor of Sui, never dared to neglect the government, and he was very strict about the time he went to court and retired from court every day. In addition, Empress Dugu often reminisced with Emperor Wen of Sui about the past years.
recounted the love between husband and wife over the years, trying to hold her husband's heart firmly through these emotional factors.
Empress Dugu was also very concerned about the uniqueness of the relationship between the two parties. She asked Emperor Wen of Sui to be committed to loving each other all his life and never change his mind.
And she also asked Emperor Wen of Sui not to have children with other women.
Emperor Wen had 5 sons, all born to Empress Dugu.
In addition, Empress Dugu's reason for restricting Emperor Wendi from having children with other women was to prevent the sons of different mothers from taking over the throne and competing for power.
The jealous Empress Dugu did not allow other women to get close to young Jian, so young Jian could only look at her and sigh.
Although Emperor Wen of Sui recognized and obeyed Empress Dugu's strict control of the harem out of concern for state affairs, he was deeply influenced by the practice of having many concubines for the emperor since ancient times.
Over time, especially with the gradual stabilization of the national political situation, Emperor Wen of Sui began to tire of Empress Dugu's puritanical rules and regulations. In the fall of the 21st year of the Kai Huang era, Empress Dugu fell ill and was recuperating in the central palace. After Emperor Wen retired from the court, he visited a courtesan.
It turned out that she was the granddaughter of the rebel Yuki-won, called Jian, who was 28 years old. When Emperor Dugu found out, she was so angry that she disregarded her illness and rushed to Renshu Palace with a group of court ladies. Yuki-jian immediately lost color, shivering, unable to stand, and had busy knees.
Empress Dugu immediately ordered Yuki-jian to be beaten to death.
At that time, young Jian rushed to the palace of Renshu after retreating from the court, and saw Empress Dugu sitting angrily, and Yuki-jian on the ground was already dead.
Young Jian could not help but feel pain and hatred and felt so disappointed that he couldn't help but turn around and leave. When Empress Dugu saw that young Jian had changed color and left, she couldn't help but rush out of the room. She didn't want to hurt the couple's love for years for the sake of a courtesan and wanted to call young Jian back. However, young Jian misunderstood what Empress Dugu meant and thought that Empress Dugu refused to give up on him.
So he accelerated his pace and walked out of the palace of Renshu without looking back.
Empress Dugu also felt she had gone too far, so she cried and confessed her fault to Emperor Wen.
To this point, young Jian has nothing to do, remembering the couple's early years of suffering love, but also does not deeply chastise her.
From now on, Dugu Queen's behavior has also been convergence. Sometimes, young Jian was allowed to get involved with courtesans, but she pretended not to know it, only that she did not allow young Jian to go too far. Empress Dugu's strict management of the harem enabled Emperor Wen to concentrate on political affairs, which significantly contributed to the strength of the state during the reign of Emperor Wen. She pursued monogamous marriage and demanded that husband and wife be faithful to each other, which was rare in ancient history.
Because of this, Empress Dugu became a very jealous woman in the eyes of later generations. In August of the second year of her reign, Empress Dugu died at 59 in Yonggan Palace, and was buried in Tailin.
From then on, Emperor Wen of Sui lost his wise wife and was not subjected to any strict discipline, and he began to pamper the 2 wives, Xuanhua and Ronghua, due to his old age and excessive indulgence. Young Jian fell ill in the Renshu Palace in July of the 4th year of Renshu's reign, and his condition gradually worsened. Soon after, Yang Guang began to show his mischievous nature and took the opportunity to molest Mrs. Xuan Chue. When Emperor Wen heard this, he sighed, "The beast is not enough for great things, and Empress Dugu has misjudged me and Sui."
However, at this point, nothing could be done.